Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 2 of Was It Something We Said? Today's topics again. We have a news topic, we have a sports topic, we have a topic of interest, and then we have a We Said message. So today's news topics to get into it is about the trade war. So, what is the trade war? Mainly tariffs. So, what is tariffs doing? What is the trade war? And just some viewpoints of what we think of that. So,
Good way to start it.
yeah. Let's see. Let's start off with what does a trade deficit means. I guess is where I kind of started, and that's when a country imports more than it exports, creating a negative balance. Another way you can put it is that when a country imports more goods and services by dollar value than it exports. So right now, we got these tariffs that's being levied or increased and stuff to try to do the trade imbalance. My first thought of that is the United States is this country that we consume a lot. So a lot of our imbalance is due on to the consumption because by population, we're smaller than China, but we consume more. So in one way, yeah, we don't make these things anymore because of, I'm going to say, the money's to be made. So a lot of things we got out of the business of doing in the United States. And it was easier to import them and also to make them cheaper so that we buy them cheaper. So part of it is, since we are so gluttony, yeah, now we got to import a lot more stuff. So we
That's a
can't
good word.
we can't support it from inside. So these businesses left because of that. You have tobacco industry kind of left. Burger King, Budweiser. Burger King 2014 moved their headquarters and operations to Canada. Budweiser with the Stella Artois in 2008 in Belgium, even though they may have a presence here in the United States. And Lucky Strike in 1994 moved off to England. So these things are moving, and they're promising that these tariffs is going to bring back jobs and it's going to bring back other things to try to make this so-called negative and equal or greater than or more value than. Steel industry left. Why did the steel industry leave? Well, it was a few reasons why the steel industry left. Foreign competition and imports, that's one, which you can say is all right there too. That began in the 70s. It was a slow adoption of technology, of new technology, higher labor costs, and mini mills. So higher labor cost is from the 70s. We got higher labor costs now than we did there too. So a lot of these things that have left, I think we kidding ourselves thinking that they gonna come back.
Well, to that point right there, let's use Nike as an example. To anyone that thinks that Nike is going to move production from China to anywhere in the United States, I got a bridge to sell them, because Nike's like any business is operating to make a profit. Now, mind you, there may be some child labor laws being violated over in China, but look at what they're paying the workers from, just from a general standpoint. That ain't going to happen here in the United States. And let's say Nike did agree to move production from China to the U.S. That ain't happening in 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. And by that time, there may be, hopefully, a new administration in that says, okay, we're not doing that. Companies don't have to come back. Now, I'm not saying it's not a good idea to manufacture things here in the U.S., but you operate at a different cost. When you talk about unions, you talk about different pay scales. Uh, you got multiple classes here, even though some would argue to say that the lower and middle classes are eroding and almost gone. All you have is the upper class. You don't have the people that's going to work. I mean, the in fields and things of that nature to earn a living wage. That's all happening overseas. So to your point, yeah, it sounds nice to say we're going to bring everything back over here to the U.S., but those Air Force One's going to cost you a lot more money than what you're paying for it now, being made in China.
Well, I agree. And Nike basically is just a marketing tool of it. Like you say, everything else is contract manufactured out. They don't own no facilities. They don't own nothing. They contract it out, make it, and sell it. They the advertising juggernaut of it, juggernaut, and that's there too. Let's take industry for us. General Motors. We started out many moons ago. Was never able to make a profit off of small cars, small SUVs. These things move for a reason. They move because they couldn't make money off of them, or they couldn't make the money that they needed to make off of them. Because sometimes in different industries, you get limited to percentages of what you can make. So they would be better off putting that money into some other industry as opposed to coming up front, spending billions of dollars to try to retrofit or bring back old plants that they done already deemed no good. So now you make these cars in these other countries and stuff. Now they bring them in. So you got cars that affordable that you can afford. Now if you bring all that stuff back, bring everything there too. Again, now you're going to pay more and that you ain't going to be able to afford it. You already
So,
afford what we got going over here now. So, again, these things left for a reason. And just because you put a tariff on this and that stuff there, they're not coming back. People will find other ways to invest money to make money.
well, think about it too. Not everyone is driving a GM Ford Stellantis vehicle. You got a lot of good cars being manufactured and invested on overseas, in China, Japan. So now, if we're going to issue tariffs on those countries, higher tariffs, uh, are those people are those people going to spend more to buy their Camrys, their Nissans, their BYDs? Uh, you know, I don't think they are, and this is where this trade war comes in. You're going to get you know thousands of dollars more on a base sticker of a vehicle. People aren't going to be able to afford it. So now you're going to have, you know, it's going to be, a lot of used cars being sold.
And they're going to go up because value of them going to go up.
They're going to be a commodity, a hot commodity.
Right. And another thing I looked at too is the money trail. So when they impose the tariff, okay, the importer pays the tariff. Who does the importer pay the tariff to? Well, the money gets collected by the Treasury Department. What is the money used on? To cover expenses and debits of the federal government. Also, too, Congress has the ability to set tariffs if they want. That is part of their power of that branch of the government as well. So, all the money's going to the federal government. So what am I going to do? Yeah, I'm going to pay it up front, but I'm going to get mine back on the back end because I'm going to charge more for it. Because I'm not going to lose money, and I have that ability. Because if it's something you want, you're going to pay more for it.
So let me ask you a question. Part of the definition of a tariff is a duty imposed by a government or customs territory to protect domestic industry or raise revenue. Which one of those two do you think is more the reality of it all? Are we protecting domestic industry, the GM, the Fords, the Stellantises, or are we raising revenue?
We raising revenue.
Yeah.
We
So we
raising
got
revenue because it covers debts and stuff of the federal government. So per se, all right, I want to give you a tax cut. How you gonna pay for it? I got revenue from these tariffs that I can pay
yeah.
for that with.
So we're not paying down the national debt with that.
No, they ain't
With
gonna
these,
pay down no national debt. National debt so high. There ain't nobody interested in paying into that.
right? I don't think so either. I really
Those
don't.
economics,
That's a running clock that's going to
economics
keep
that
running.
you and I and people like us use to go to day, to balance your checkbook, to do all that. That's a different economics. This is a whole different level of economics, I believe. It's just a tool, and it's how do you use the tool. It's just like a hammer. What's a hammer used for? I can nail nails, I can do this, I can build. And that's a good thing for me. But all right, so what if I take a hammer, hit somebody in the goddamn head and kill them? So now I done weaponized the hammer.
Right.
So now the hammer is a weapon. So tariffs, same thing. Same thing.
Well, it's going to be as the Dow thankfully is back over 40,000, but it's a roller coaster. And 1 week tariffs are on, 1 week tariffs are off. China, we're supposed to be negotiating with China. China says we ain't heard from nobody to negotiate. We don't know what you're talking about. But I think China has so much leverage on us, on the U.S.
Well,
They don't.
China does, and and another thing that we creating is, we creating hookups, because now I'm creating a situation where Canada and Mexico is working together more. I'm creating situations that, hey, China's a big player, that they working with China now. So I'm starting relationships, so I'm hooking up other people as well. So now once they become involved,
Sounds like
what
Survivor
do I
to
need
me.
you for?
It sounds like Survivor to me, where what's the term they use on Survivor when they building these little coalitions or I stopped watching Survivor almost 20 years ago, but the countries are banding up. They're like you said, they're getting together and say, okay, let's, it's power in numbers.
And that's it. And there's money there to be made. Hey, our deficit so because we consume so much. We greedy.
Yep. Hey,
So,
I got an Amazon, I got UPS, I got FedEx up and down the street every day, dropping off, and the mailman dropping off things. So that's the ease of it. We could order stuff right now during this podcast and have it here in 24 hours
or less now with the other,
or less.
with some of these distribution centers and stuff and what they got in there. So no, so it's just like everything else. Not everybody uses a tool for what its intended use is.
Okay.
All right, with that, NFL draft. What you think about the draft? Because the biggest thing that the draft turned into was, hey, Shador Sanders. What you got for me?
Well, it's a lot of different talking heads. It's a lot of just people chiming in, but I never thought it was about race. It was some comparisons made to when Eli Manning was coming out of Ole Miss, and Archie says, you ain't going to I think it was the Chargers, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
And now you got Dion, basically chiming in, for his son, which, hey, it's a father protecting his son. Both were ex-NFL players. I think this is the majority of the reasons of what happened was the NFL was humbling Shador. They're saying, hey, you ain't done nothing. You may have got your number retired at Colorado, but you didn't do a lot of workouts. You interviewed flamboyantly, and I got no problem with that. But unless you're that person's name on that check that's going to these players, you're on the receiving end of getting those checks. So there's only 32 NFL owners, and they were being compared to slave owners, but it's a business. The NFL is a business. If you look at the draft, and it's the only sports entity that gets coverage 365, almost 24/7. Nobody cares about baseball in the off season. Nobody cares about hockey in the off season. The only time people care about soccer is when the World Cup is happening, for the most part, unless you live in south of the border or in the European countries. The NFL, the next bit of excitement is when the schedule comes out in May. Everybody's going to be looking at that to make travel plans. So the NFL says, hey, slow down, Mr. Sanders. You're doing a lot of talking. You ain't done nothing. And was it collusion? Absolutely was collusion, in my opinion. But they wanted to put him in his place. That's all it was. But it had nothing to do with race. It was the NFL saying, you're not bigger than us.
All right. Some of the things you said, I think it does have something to do with race. So I'm going to take the opposite end of this one. Okay. Because really, what has anybody done? It's from what they done did in college when you get drafted. 8th in Heisman voting. Winner of the 2024 Johnny Unitas Golden Arm Award. Record setter for passing at Jackson State and Colorado. 3.9 GPA at UC at Colorado. 2024 Big 12 Offensive Player of the Year. 2024 first team all Big 10. Now,
Big
the
12.
key word that everyone I've talked to and where you started off with was humble, humility. Humility, a modest or low view of one's own importance, humbleness. Synonyms, submissiveness, weakness, lawlessness. Antonyms, pride. So, we have a prideful young man, a prideful father who's set this legacy. The system's the same. We all have different conditions. He's been in conditions that's been more favorable from him because of the success that his father had and that he's kind of passed on and kind of raised him to kind of be that way as well. So, anyone, according to their conditions, is going to do whatever they can do for their kids. The love for a child, I feel, is one of the top loves that it is because it's the most unconditional, the most forgiving, the most tolerable that it is, and that bond that you have, and we talk about true, it's always exceptions to everything. You go to the woodshed for them.
So, with that being said, so here are the quarterbacks taken in front of him, all right? Cam Ward went number 1 overall to Tennessee. Jackson Dart to the Giants. Tyler Shoff to the Saints. Jalen Milroe to the Seahawks. And Shadur's new teammate, Dylan Gabriel, to Cleveland. You don't think their fathers were pulling for them and giving them that same prideful support that Primetime was giving Shador?
Yes, I do. Johnny Manziel, he was number 1. Baker was number 1. And they did all that. Man didn't really do anything from there too. But, with all that said, also humility has a lot to do with the submission to God's will. If now I'm gonna go a little biblical, a little biblical in it. So back to your analogy, it's a business. It's there too. So basically, the NFL God said, "You need to humble yourself before me, before we gonna let you in and give you an opportunity." Now I did read some stuff today to say, hey, he did say maybe he did some pre-draft things wrongs and that stuff too. So also part of humility is accepting things with grace. So I think that he is accepting things with grace and is going to do what it is that he can do and show the work. The boy done put work in. He didn't get to where he was at with not
He
putting
could
work
play.
in. He
He
can
could
play.
play. He ain't no
Even though
scrub.
he has better conditions, all the better stuff that
He
better
could play.
conditions allow, he had to put some work in to be over there, to
He
be
could
in
play.
that opportunity, to feel that he was a first round pick. So he did put the work in. So, you know, time will tell what happens. And then, too, I don't know what's going on with the Browns organizations anyway with these
Man, they
quarterbacks.
got 5 quarterbacks.
You
They
got
got five.
Deshaun who can't play unless he get a
Yeah.
massage.
Yeah.
So he
Flacco. You
broke
got
up. They
Flacco.
brought Flacco back because Flacco got him to the playoffs and that
Yep.
stuff there too. Then, like you say, they picked up Kenny Pickett. He's over there.
Yep.
Then they drafted Dylan and Shador. So
Yeah.
you,
Somebody got to go.
yeah,
I think before the season's over, Shador's going to be starting in Cleveland. Um, I don't see Gabriel beating him out. From a rookie standpoint, I see, Deshaun ain't playing because I think he's got Achilles. He's coming off Achilles surgery.
yeah. I
And
don't think
he's got a lot of
this year.
he's got a lot of other issues going on too. But so now you're talking about Flacco. Flacco, he could ball, but he's older and he tends to get hurt. So who's gonna be the number 2 quarterback? And it probably is gonna be to start off Kenny Pickett, him in his glove. But Shador will outplay him, and he gonna feel the pressure. And I think before the season's over, you're gonna see Shador under center
Yeah,
in Cleveland.
yeah. I think he's gonna turn this into an opportunity to show the hard work, to show the dedication that he's got to it. Cause right, wrong, and different. He's been put in this position, and when you hear Prime talking there too, I don't want to say I don't want to say religious, but he often mentions God's plan, God's will, and that there too. So you have to go with the phrase or the verse I can think of from the Bible that kind of fits the most is God giveth and God taketh away.
Yeah.
So how do you be who you are amongst those things?
It's gonna make him stronger. It's definitely gonna make him stronger.
Definitely, because
Yeah.
how do we grow? Unfortunately, we grow the most through what is painful the most.
Yep. Okay.
All righty. Other topic of interest here. All right. So, don't know Ant-Man personally. Don't know this here too, but just gonna use his situation for discussion in that sense and in a broader sense. So basically, he paid the child support up for 18 years and gave
Let's
up.
talk before you go any further for the lay person that may not know who Ant-Man is. Why don't you tell everybody who he is?
Anthony Edwards. He's a baller for the Minnesota Timberwolves.
Timberwolves.
So young player, young exciting player that's there too. But in the news recently because of having a child with another female that he wasn't currently in a relationship with like that, like he is with his current girlfriend, which he had there too. So with this, hey, it's a lot of rumors been saying that he gave her $100,000 to get an abortion. She didn't do it, and all this other kind of stuff there too. So, but only them two know what really went on. But the thing, this topic that where it came up, it was that they said that hey, he paid the child support up front over a little bit over $1 million, and said that he didn't want anything to do, with the child. So, couple things is being a dad and just other things. I go back to it's not the child's fault. You
It's
was
not.
you was with the woman. You did the paternity test. It is yours. So you didn't use protection. You didn't use that too. Did she lie? Probably so. Did you lie to get some? Probably so. So just like sins, one lie is no greater than the other one in the game, as far as I'm concerned. Yeah, you lied, she lied too, and yeah, you feel betrayed, you feel tricked, you feel a lot of things. But I think that, and hopefully that, and I'm saying this as a older me, because I might say the same thing at 23 or whatever if I felt this way. But it's bigger than just that. Kids
Yeah.
need more than just financial support from a father.
Well, he makes 300 million, which helps him turn the other cheek, for the kid. He's got other kids. He's not quite at Tyreek's level of baby making, um, but he's trending in that direction. To me, to say, okay, I'm going to pay you. I think the total was $1,080,000. Over 18 years. Yeah, even if I was making 600 million, yeah, I couldn't do that. Uh, but that's just me, for my love of kids and things like that. But he's in a profession where these players, they got pit stops in every NBA city they go to. That's a given. And you got the groupies. They make it very easy. You know, Sometimes they get in trouble with said groupies. Uh, and sometimes kids are coming out of these unions, and these women, they got their own little plan too. They got a plan. I'm gonna get me a baller. Hopefully somebody that starts, not somebody that sits at the end of the bench. And I'm going to be set. Brittany Renner, she's famous for that. Uh, and they just take turns, going from athlete to athlete. So I don't respect him for what he does, but I guess he don't need my respect for who he is and what he does. But it sheds a bad light on men, black men, who's for the most part, who's absent. They're absent in the lives of their children for multiple reasons.
Yeah, multiple reasons, and it just ain't the money thing to pay up front. It's
No.
like you said there too. Hey, some of the stuff I done looked up, that his dad was largely absent in his life. That he was basically raised by his mother and his grandmother,
So
and
cyclical.
that his dad, gave him the nickname Ant Man when he was a small. So it's cyclical as well. So how did that fit with him? I don't know.
It made it easy for him to say write a check for 1 million plus,
Yeah,
and
it may have made him easier
and
to say it's fit for right 1 million plus, but when he was little, before he was Ant Man, before he was in the NBA, how did you feel?
yeah, when he was at the
Again, you
University
have
of
a child
Georgia.
out here that could have all kind of health problems, anything else from your side of
Yep.
the family. They know nothing about it.
Yeah.
They don't,
Hopefully,
they
well,
don't know nothing about it. You got a girl here who could grow up. Why my father don't want me? So that's
now
that too.
see,
So you got identity
see,
crisis. You got all this kind of stuff
yeah.
that you have to do with this. And then
What do you think? What do you think his mother? Because you know, grandmothers love their grandkids, right? Do you think his mother is saying, "Hey, you need to be part of this kid's life," or I want to be involved in this kid because this is my grandchild"? Do you think the mother? What do you think his mother is saying? I haven't heard much from that
I
side
haven't
of.
heard much from that side too, but I would believe or hope so or think so that since I went through this with you and knew how hard it was and how tough it was, that now that you're not abandoning it financially per se, but financial is a I mean it's a big part, but it's not the biggest part in having and trying to raise good human beings.
Money don't make everybody happy, man. It's a
No,
lot of unhappy millionaires.
that's it. And it doesn't. You've raised your kids. You ain't no millionaire.
Nope.
Good kids. Matter of fact, all of the group of us with our kids and that we know have good kids. Are the
Yep.
kids? Do they have their issues? Do they got this, that, too? Yeah, because their conditions wasn't as bad as some of the other conditions. So they got some of these complexities and that kind of stuff, too, that was afforded to them. You know,
Common denominator is love, though, and us being in their lives versus cutting checks or being not in their lives and not wanting because he doesn't want anything to do with this kid.
right.
He's basically giving his money, saying,
Right, no
I'm out.
parental rights in there too, but now she gonna
Yeah,
see you being daddy to another kid because of the woman that you chose to hook up with that kind of kid came out of. So yeah, that's just tough. And how do you reverse that?
maybe
And
as he gets
hopefully he
older.
don't. You know, will he regret it later on? Don't know. But again, some of them have. Carl Malone, he didn't claim that boy. Well, maybe because she was 13 when he got her pregnant. Said, I'm gonna wait till the statute of
The
limitations off.
the
Yeah, oh, wait a
mailman
minute. Let me
dropping
see.
off mail at night.
Right. And then a lot of times too, fathers come back. I understand that too when the child does well and say, hey, well, So no, so it's a lot of dynamics that play into it. So it's not to point him out to say he this bad person and that he's
Right.
just there too. It's just that it's the example. A lot of them go
Yeah.
up and say, hey, I thank God for what I'm being here and there too. So if you feel that way, then you should be thinking about what God think about all aspects of your life, even though you do what you do.
Yeah, Kevin, and he's an NBA superstar. Now, it could be a CEO in some company that done knocked up the maid, that done paid the maid off. We ain't gonna know about that because it's not being talked about in NBA circles or sports circles, ESPN.
That's true. Well, sorts of nigga, he knocked up the maid.
Okay.
He knocked up the maid and it came
Yeah,
out. So,
yeah,
so it does happen. Hey, you probably got Joe Blow off the street and knocked up the cleaning woman from
yeah.
that come in and clean your house first time for $19, whatever that
Right.
is. So, hey, in the old days, hey, regular men had two families. You didn't know it until he died, till he came to the funeral, and you like, well, who is you? Well, I'm his, his other family and stuff. So it
Yeah, you
ain't
sound like Jerry Blake.
right. So it ain't like this is something new or something, just he's the worst person. Cause no, it's just that. Hey, in this instance, hey, I hope he would see a difference for the sake of the child, not for
Right.
the sake of the mama. Obviously, you got the money because you didn't gave her the money. You paid her for her things there too. So you ain't got to forgive her. Just be there for your child.
Well said. Well said. All right. Well, with that being said, we could transition to our reset message part of the conversation. And I'm up this week, and as many people know, I have 6 daughters, 6 wonderful daughters, and some of those daughters have blessed me with 6 grandchildren, soon to be 7. As Amani's expecting later
Congratulations.
this year. Thank you, thank you. Another girl is coming, so the girls are catching up to the grandsons. Uh, but there's one grandson and one daughter I just want to focus my message on, and my message is that of courage and resilience. Uh, Many people don't know that one of my grandkids, Kane, I call him Kane Rudy, he was born with cerebral palsy. He's the son of Autumn, my youngest daughter, and I've seen him from day one to where he's at. A couple of years into his life, and it's been a struggle. Um, and Autumn, who just recently finished her nursing studies and graduated and finally passed her nursing exam, and now she's in the working world and getting a nice check. Um, but the work that this young lady, and she's had some help, with Carl, her boyfriend, and the family support, but the calls, the text messages where I get from her, it becomes overwhelming. This is, Kane Rudy requires special care 24/7, and it's been, several times he's been, taken to the emergency room where her and Carl have to take him, uh, you know, because of his, what he's been given. Those are the cards he's been dealt with. And my message is that, we're all dealt multiple cards in life, and some of us could say, "I wish I had a better hand." Uh, but the hand that we were dealt, between Autumn as a mother and me as a grandfather, uh, I wouldn't take it. I wouldn't ask for another hand to save the world, because what she's shown me as a mother of being strong, resilient, what he's shown me as a grandson, courage for what he's been through with the multiple tests and some of the pain he has to endure. But he's getting better. He's getting better in this little steps that he's showing progress. And I just wanted to share that story, and just to let anyone know that's listening that may be fighting to thinking, why did I get dealt these cards? This is unfair. Well, look at it as a blessing. There's good in everything that comes our way, and you make the best of it. And I look forward to seeing one day him walking, uh, and me helping Autumn with whatever she needs. I tell her he will want for nothing as long as I'm breathing, and even when I'm not breathing, he will want for nothing. And she's got my full support. So um, that's my message. Be happy with the cards that you have in your hands, and keep the love going, and keep loving one another and helping one another.
Excellent message, and our prayers and support. If you need it, we got you. So,
Oh yeah, absolutely. I got a hell of a village. All right,
all
I'll let you
right,
wrap us
folks.
up.
Is who's that said that? Porky Pig. That's all, folks. See you in episode 3.
All right, see you, Pope.
Yep. See you, El Jefe.
All right, man.
Yep.
Bye.